Hi everyone, we're going to go over some oil pastel techniques today. When you apply your pastel, you want to make sure that you have a firm application. If you do it too gentle, you're going to see the paper through it, and when you go to blend, you're not going to be able to blend very easily. If you press too hard, you might break one of your pastels. That's okay, it's still going to work. You can always just take the paper off and continue to use it. I prefer to blend with my finger. You can also use a tissue or a cotton swab, but I found that using my finger always works the best. Next is our stipple technique, and by overlaying dots of different colors together, you can create that same ombre effect. You can also do a stipple technique to create different densities. So if you're trying to create shading or different textures within your composition, you can do so and do it on top of a base layer as well. This comes in handy when you're trying to do something like grass or something with a texture. You can do longer kind of strokes instead of stipples. Sometimes I like to create entire compositions out of stipple as well. It kind of helps slow down the process of learning color mixing and learning how to shade. Now for shading. Shading is awesome with oil pastels. They blend so smoothly, and they're pretty forgiving when it comes to removing unwanted color. We always want to use a blue for our shadows. Black kind of takes over everything, so always start with a blue and try that. If you need to add a tiny little bit of black to it, you can do so. I will not do so here. It's not needed as we're shading lighter colors. You could use black if it's a very dark color that we're shading. And then you want to add a highlight with some white where the light hits your object. Always remember to clean off your pastels between uses. Those little flecks on there will really be a pain in the butt later, and you'll end up getting it on a color you don't want to. You may need to wipe off your finger in between colors if it's getting too messy. Just wipe it right on your scrap paper. Go very slow around the edges of your objects. That way you don't accidentally get an unwanted mixed color. If you get little residue flecks, go ahead and just dump that over on your scrap paper, and then at the end you can dump it in the trash. So just as I did with the blue, I'm going to use blue again to shadow my surface and then my wall behind. Again, remember, a shadow is just a darker shade of the color you already have. So what we do is we use a little bit of blue. You could also use a dark purple if that's available, but blue is my go-to, and you just add it on top of the pastel, and then you can use the pastel to then that same color pastel to blend back in with it. To remove unwanted pastel, use the back of your finger and just kind of scrape. If you use the front, the underneath, it's going to feel really gross underneath your nail. But you could also use something else that's flat that won't harm your paper, like a popsicle stick or craft stick. I'm just going to add this back in here because I actually do want it there. Now, if there is a color that you want, you're going to want to experiment to find that. So on a scrap piece of paper, you can mix different colors. In this case, I'm mixing a purple because for some reason this set does not have purple. So there's a few different options. Obviously, purple is made with red and blue, so I'm experimenting with red and blue and pink and blue, which pink is red. It's just a hue of red. It's red mixed with white. Now, when you're thinking about color, complementary colors are opposite on the color wheel, and next to each other they're super vibrant, but when mixed together they end up making like a brown or a gray color. So you want to make sure that you're really careful when you have these colors next to each other. So your complementary colors are purple and yellow, blue and orange, and red and green. And as you see here, if you mix them together, that you kind of get this muddied color. So just be wary of that. Unless you want a muddied color, and then perfect, mix together some complementary colors. Those are the techniques that I have for you today. Good luck with your composition.